Hi folks, how you doing? This is Iqbal. AMD earnings is due on July 30th. So I did this analysis using financial data and forward PE to calculate the future price projections for AMD after earnings. And we'll also talk about how this earnings can impact Nvidia stock price. Now, let's get started. In this table, I put together the summary of the financial data for last 6 quarters, and also I put together the year-to-year comparison and quarter-to-quarter comparison for AMD. And just to extend this comparison, I also put together the year-to-year comparison and quarter-to-quarter comparison for NVIDIA as well. So we can compare AMD versus NVIDIA. Starting with the revenue, you see that AMD has not done a good job in the last quarter, just 2% increase from year to year, and quarter to quarter, there was no improvement. In fact, it went down. The net income side, similar picture, no improvement year to year and quarter to quarter. The net income declined. The profit margin, similar story, the margin percentage declined year to year and quarter to quarter. And the gross margin, yeah, it went up, but no significant improvement. EBIT DA margin percentage also went down. EPS year to year, yeah, there is slight improvement, but quarter to quarter it went down. Free cash flow per share, they did a good job in improving their free cash flow in the last quarter. Debt to equity ratio, no major change. So looking at this picture, you see that last quarter was not so great for AMD. In most of the areas, they went down. If we compare with Nvidia, in case of revenue, you see that Nvidia made a significant improvement year to year and quarter to quarter. And also the net income, you see that a major increase. Also on the net income side, in case of Nvidia, significant improvement. And same thing you see that in the margin percentages, EPS, free cash flow per share, but debt to equity ratio went down. But overall, Nvidia did a much better job than AMD. Now, let's dig into further on the EPS side for AMD. In this table, I put together the historical EPS for last 7 quarters, EPS projected versus EPS actual, and the surprise percentage. You see that the last quarter AMD was able to beat the earning expectation, but prior to the last quarter, it missed the earning expectation. But overall, AMD did a good job in beating the expectation. The next 4 quarters, you see that earning is expected to go up. And if you compare the earning projections from Q2 2024 versus 4 quarters from now, that is Q1 2025, the earnings expected to grow about 67%. And that is much higher than Nvidia expected earning 4 quarters from now. Let's take a look. You see this table for Nvidia. So Nvidia 4 quarters from now, earning growth is about 25% projected. Let's go back to AMD. So if AMD does not miss any earnings in the future, probably 1 year from now, AMD price should be at least 67% higher than it is right now. Now let's talk about the forward PE. And we also put the sales projections for next 2 quarters for AMD. You see that for Q2 2024, 5.71 and Q3 6.58. Compared with the last quarter, let's take a look. The last quarter was 5.47. So earning projection for this quarter is slightly higher than the last quarter. But Q3, we expect that AMD will make good improvement. Now let's take a look forward P ratio in much more detail and try to come up with the price projections for AMD. In this table, I put together the closing price for AMD for last 30 days, and also I calculate the P ratio with respect to trailing 12 months EPS, and also the P ratio with respect to forward EPS. We also call it forward P ratio. EPS forward is basically last quarter actuals plus next 3 quarters earning projections. And the EPS trailing 12 months is last 4 quarters earning actual, including last quarter. Then I have the historical data for the forward P and the trailing P in this table for last 13 quarters. And also I have put together the EPS projected and the actual for last 12 or 13 quarters and the earnings surprise. And I also calculated the mean, and the maximum forward P for last 12 or 13 quarters. And that will assist us in calculating the price projections for AMD. And also I calculated the minimum, average, and the maximum earnings surprise for last 12 or 13 quarters. And also I have earning projections for next 4 quarters and the sales projections for next 2 quarters. Now I'm ready to calculate the price projections for AMD after the earnings. I already did the math. Let me go over the formula with you. That's the same formula that I went over with you in case of Nvidia probably few weeks ago. The G4, that is EPS forward. The second factor is P28, that is minimum forward P for last 12 quarters. And the third factor is the earnings surprise. In this case, I put 0 because there are some negative surprises, so I do not want to use the negative values. So that gives the minimum price projection for AMD is 80.1, and for the average, I use the same formula except I'm using the mean value for the forward P, that is this one, and the third factor I'm using the average surprise for the last 12 quarters. See this formula? And also for the maximum, same formula, except the fact I'm using the maximum forward P, that is R28, that is this guy, the max value. And the third factor, you see that is S35, and that is this guy, the maximum value for the earnings surprise for last 12 quarters. So if I use those three values, I get the maximum value 240 and the average 131.7. So after the earnings, my expectation is AMD should move between these three values until the following earnings, and that is due sometime in October. Then the next 3 months, I expect that AMD should not go below 80 and should not go above 240. At this point, AMD is at 139.9. That is slightly higher than the average value that I projected. So there is some room for AMD to go further down. If they miss the earnings, that will take AMD further down. And if AMD beats the earning with a good margin, and also if they are able to provide a good revenue guidance, and that gonna help Nvidia stock price as well. And that should take Nvidia stock go further up. So that's why AMD earnings is very important. That gonna negatively or positively impact Nvidia as well. So that's all about AMD price projections before and after earnings. I hope you liked the video. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you more tomorrow. Take care.